after we talk to my guy, Patrik No C Walker of DallasCowboys.com. So let's get into it, Cowboys Nation. No sucking kick deal when I'm dropping science. I'm dropping science. What's good, brother man? I'm dropping science.
My boy, how goes it?
Man, I am having a blast here talking to my boys, and I'm finally talking to my Cowboys Nation, I should say, because there's gals. And we finally get to catch up with you after a week, man. There's a lot going on down there at camp.
Yeah, and I was listening to you, and it's funny that you talk about special teams and the running back equation, because I spoke about that yesterday on Cowboys Break for those viewers and listeners that catch that podcast, and you should, because why wouldn't you, right?
Yeah.
What are you? So I was speaking of, well, Derek Eagleton, he asked me, he said, so how does your running back lineup look right now? What's the depth chart for me? So I'm like, okay, of course you got Tony Pollard, but then I'm like, well, given the circumstances with Ronald Jones with the suspension and now the groin injury, he's missing time, give me Rico Dowdle at RB2. And you and I have had that discussion offline.
Yes.
So then behind him, it became, for me, Malik versus Ronald Jones, and then Deuce. I got Deuce making the roster. And then some people would say, well, wait a minute, you're carrying 4? I am carrying 4, but I'm not counting Deuce as a running back per se, but that's a conversation for another day. But the ultimate thing for me is a special teams equation. We know Rico Dowdle plays special teams. We know Malik Davis plays special teams. We know that Deuce Vaughn is getting reps as punt protector, and he's going to get some reps as a returner in preseason because they want Turpin to kind of pull back from that and get some offensive reps. So the question is, how effective or ineffective will Ronald Jones be on special teams? And in that conversation, in the John Bones Fossil conversation, Rojo seems to be kind of the odd man out. So good conversation that I was just listening to, and I was like, oh, Steele's on it, as always.
Come on, man. You know we got to stay on top of it, because if we don't.
I'm knowing.
They try to press us. So before we get into a few things I want to hear from you that you're looking to watch for on Saturday, are there any injury updates that we need to be made aware of heading into practice today?
Well, first and foremost, let's just go ahead and say that Luke Schoonmaker is really starting to come on. He was activated from NFI on Monday, obviously, but on that day he stuck mostly and exclusively, I should say, to individual drills, and they didn't release him to formally practice with the team because they wanted to kind of feel things out with that plantar fasciitis. But the next padded practice, he was in fact doing team drills. So that's fantastic. But he also, in doing so, he got his first touchdown of NFL training camp, which was phenomenal. Standing ovation for the young man. He's working his way in. But what was more impressive than that to me was 2 plays later on a bad ball from Cooper Rush, right side of the end zone, back pylon. He couldn't reach it, but he completely went horizontal. Like he just threw his body weight at it to try to make that play. And anybody who knows football, and you knows receivers, tight ends, when it comes to, being able to dive like that, especially because that's a big boy. That's a big boy. So to propel that mass forward, that means he has a lot of confidence in that foot. And that's definitely absolutely what you want to see there. Mozzie Smith, a lot of people were concerned initially about Mozzie Smith missing padded practice with what we're being told is knee tendonitis. He had a precautionary MRI done, and, people say, oh, well, Cowboys are downplaying it. Well, actually, this one they were not downplaying it, because after the news came of the precautionary MRI, I was walking and I saw Mozzie, and I caught up with him and said, hey, Mozzie, how you feeling? He's like, man, I'll be all right. Of course, I looked down, not a knee brace in sight, not a knee wrap in sight. Fast forward to yesterday, mock game walkthrough. Not only was he present, but he wasn't relegated to the sideline. He was on the field going through the mock game. So there's at least a solid chance that he takes the field on Saturday. I would not put money on that, because first-round pick, knee tendonitis, don't push it if you don't have to. But if they say he's good to go, then he's good to go. The main takeaway here is there is no concern with Mozzie Smith. And then who's my other guy? Tyler Biadasz. Tyler Biadasz left padded practice this week with what I was told was a rolled ankle. So, nothing major, because that rolled ankle didn't result in any structural damage. He actually returned to the sideline. He was testing it out. But ultimately, the Cowboys medical staff decided to shut him down for for that practice. He's far too important starting center. You already have some issues with the Zach Martin situation. You're trying to figure out your interior line rotation. You don't want to lose Tyler Biadasz. He also, like Mozzie Smith, was on the field yesterday going through the drills and going through the mock game reps. So he looks good as well. There is no device on his ankle. So doesn't look like that sprain is going to be an issue for him going forward. So Cowboys have been dodging some injury bullets, for lack of a better way to put it. Donovan Wilson, he's out of his boot. Israel Mukuamu back in practice full speed. If you follow me on Twitter at Voice of the Star, you've seen I posted some Izzy highlights, and he's out there making some plays. So all things are moving in the right direction there.
I want to pick up where you left off with Tyler Biadasz, because I'd imagine everyone is going to be watching this interior offensive line on Saturday, because it hasn't really been winning days, and it's tough. I'll be honest, it's going to be tough to win days against this defensive line, but it's clearly one of the concerning things. So, what specifically, or who specifically, are you looking for or watching on Saturday against the Jaguars? On the interior, I should say.
Well, on the interior, first of all, I'm a huge advocate of not playing starters unnecessarily in the preseason, particularly these first 2 preseason games. And especially now that we've shrunk down from 4 to 3, it's kind of like, why play them at all? Because you don't really have that dress rehearsal game anymore. So I want to see Matt Farniok in a game setting. He's had some uneven battles here in camp. He's won some, he's lost some, and you could say that about everyone. But for Matt Farniok, he's a guy that you need to take that leap forward this year, because you don't know what's going on with Zach Martin just yet. And even if you do know, even if Zach Martin walked in today, and I hope he does, but even if he does, you still need that interior depth secured. And Matt Farniok is the first name that's going to keep coming up when you ask these coaches and you ask the front office, well, who are you looking at for interior left guard, right guard, backup center? It's going to be Matt Farniok. Spoke with Mike McCarthy yesterday or a couple of days ago about Matt Farniok, and he said, well, some of the struggles may be due to too much flex being put on him between swinging left, right, and then getting some center reps. So they're trying to make him a little bit more exclusive to one position this past week. I want to see what that plan of action looks like going into Saturday. So my eyes are there. I'm also looking at rookie 5th-round pick Asim Richards. He hasn't popped just yet. He has the frame, has the ability, has the hands, has the feet. Maybe just needs to get his NFL speed there. No better way to do it than to put him into an NFL game. So I'm looking at Asim Richards as well from the interior line standpoint. And from there, it's kind of the usual suspects as far as wondering if they can. And in that category falls a guy like Josh Ball, right? So Josh Ball, former backup tackle for the Cowboys. They're now trying him at interior at the guard position. He's got a ton of reps at right guard. He's got some reps behind Tyler Smith at left guard. Let's see if Josh Ball can show the Cowboys that he can be of value as a backup interior lineman. So for me, those are, 3 guys. Obviously, throw Chuma Edoga in there as well. The Cowboys brought him in so that he could affect the game from the interior as a backup guy. He's had an up and down training camp thus far, had a strong blue-white practice. So he's starting to feel his way out a little bit. Hopefully that trend continues.
Matt, when you said the name Josh Ball, the chat collectively went,
"Oh, brother, this guy stinks!"
Collectively went. They said, no, we want to hear about Brock Hoffman, man. What's going on with Brock? That's what Brock Hoffman.
Brock, yeah, I like it. So Brock's another guy you want to definitely keep an eye on. And I can understand the Josh Ball thing, because if you look at the film, it's just not there for me, just like it's not there for y'all. So I get it. I get it 100%. Brock Hoffman looks like he's making strides, but he's still on the depth chart for me. He's still behind Matt Farniok, so he's going to have to make bigger strides if he wants to get into that immediate depth conversation. But also Alec Lindstrom, young guy, Boston College, going into the second year. Obviously, he got some reps when Tyler Biadasz went down with the rolled ankle. So Lindstrom at center, that's another one to watch as well. So some of these young guys are absolutely going to get their opportunities on Saturday.
Well, great. Alyssa Meyer said, well, let's go. I was just about to ask you, because he was a guy a lot of us
That's
are
not
like,
interior.
That's
You
true.
said interior.
That's true. That's true. Hey, Alyssa or Mr. Myers, I did say interior. So let's go to the tackles real quick. Let's go to the tackles. Matt, well, let's go. I imagine Terrence Steele ain't playing. Tyron Smith, they ain't playing. But some of these backup guys, what are we thinking here?
All eyes on Willetsko for me, and I've been. It's no secret that I've been high on Willetsko since last year before he suffered the shoulder subluxation that essentially, or effectively, I should say, ended his season. But he's back. Shoulder looks good. Strength looks good. Feet look good. The football IQ has never been the issue. So from the swing tackle perspective, I like what he's bringing in camp thus far as a backup guy. So keep your eye on that. Austin Richards, I can put him in both conversations, interior and on the edge, because the Cowboys have been working him as such. And obviously, coming from North Carolina, a lot of his work, most of his work was done on the outside as a tackle, and that's kind of how he made a name for himself out there in North Carolina. So want to see him as well. So those are my top two when it comes to the edge, but I have a golden circle around Matt Willetsko because I'm really anxious to see what he can do in the absence of Terrence Steele, in the absence of Tyron Smith, because I don't expect either of those two guys to play.
Before I flip to the defensive side, we were talking about the wide receivers prior to you joining the show, and I'm excited to see these young guys in this system in the preseason because I think the system combined with, Cooper Rush being a veteran and having a strong camp, we should be able to see more production out of this group than we've seen over the last few years. Is my feeling right on that, or do you think there might still be some struggles like we've seen specifically last season, where no receiver had more than 44 yards? It felt like in the entire preseason when it comes to the depth guys.
Well, I think the depth. I'm not even going to say I think. I believe the depth chart at wide receiver looks massively improved over last year. And I'm not just talking about, the addition of Brandon Cooks and, the likely bounce back of Michael Gallup. I'm talking about WR4 down. WR4 down, well, first of all, you didn't really have a definitive WR3 last year, which kind of goes to my point as far as the depth being massively improved. Jalen Tolbert looks like he's really coming on strong. And I'm telling you guys, I'm not trying to make you drink any Kool-Aid because I don't drink Kool-Aid of this nature. I do, when my mama make it, I got to drink it because, that's red, that's grape, how that goes. But when it comes to the Cowboys and sports, I just shoot it straight. So I'm telling you what I'm seeing from Jalen Tolbert. This is not gas. This young man looks like he's back at South Alabama. He's playing confident football. He's not thinking. His moves look fluid. His routes look good. He's aggressive attacking the ball. He's aggressive coming off of his releases with the press coverage. He just looks more
like he belongs.
Swaggy. So yes, like he belongs, and he believes it, and because it's true. So now the only thing was he needed to believe it. It looks as if he's believing it now, and I hope that translates over to the games, but we will see because that's another name to watch as early as this Saturday. But when you talk about the Jalen Tolbert conversation in 2023, you're talking about him being a front runner for WR4, but then you gotta mention Kevontae Turpin. From what I'm seeing from Turpin out here, he is making waves offensively, even when he's not targeted. So when he's targeted, he's bringing the ball down. I've seen him high point and get the ball over bigger, taller, longer defenders. But then I'm also seeing how destructive he is in space. And the defensive backs, the nickel backs, they're really having a hard time containing him in space. It seems like he gets open at will. And I will compare his ability to get open in space to a guy like Cole Beasley, which I don't think is an incorrect comp when you look at the size, the quickness, the ability to plant and go and get into his breaks and get out of his breaks. That is what he reminds me of from the slot perspective. But he can also go downfield as well. So you got Jalen Tolbert, looks like he's coming on strong. Let's hope he translates it over. You got Kevontae Turpin, who we know can translate it over, just needs a chance with the play calling and the playbook, okay? From there, now you start looking at these young guys. I know Simi Fehoko has had an up and down camp, more ups than downs, but still up and down. Jalen Brooks, though, not many downs, okay? The rookie 7th-round pick. He's stacking good days, day after day after day. Jalen Moreno-Cropper. God, we got a lot of Jalen's like we have a lot of Tylers, right?
Yeah.
Jalen Moreno-Cropper, the undrafted rookie. He's come in and he's made some waves. Cooled down a bit as of late, but I wonder if that's in direct correlation with Jalen Brooks making waves. So that competition right there is good, hot and heavy. So I say all of that still to say this: the wide receiver depth looks much improved over 2022, and for my money, that means that when Cooper Rush and then ultimately Will Greer get in these preseason games with this particular group we're describing, Tolbert and Turpin and Fehoko and Brooks and Moreno-Cropper, And then, hey, let's not forget John Stevens Jr.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you categorize him as a tight end or a wide receiver.
Put him at the
All I know is he's big enough to be a tight end. He's big enough to be a tight end, but he has lined up as wide receiver as well because he has the hands and the ability to do that. So Cooper Rush and Will Grier have plenty of targets effective this Saturday against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So it should be a much more successful pass game when that second and third group is in.
I want to tap in so bad to this Cole Beasley Turpin thing, but I know you're tough on time right now.
Yep,
but
we got to wrap. You like that cliffhanger?
Oh my god, I didn't have the courage to say it but in my head when I watched it, I said, oh. God.
I got to give you the cliffhanger with the Seth Rollins.
Oh my God, man! Hey, do you got time to talk about Demo, or we want to save this for next week?
We'll save it for next week, but I will say this because I got to get over to this hit for
105
for 105.3 FM The Fan in about 5 minutes. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to grab a pen, run this back to jot these names down. I mentioned a few of these players that you should keep an eye on. Keep an eye on everybody. Also keep in mind that this is not win or lose. This is evaluation time for the Cowboys, and it should be for you as well. So don't tweet any of us about scores. We don't care. So Kevontae Turpin, Jabril Cox, absolutely. Jalen Brooks, John Stevens Jr. mentioned him. Wanye Thomas, and Marquise Bell. Keep an eye on these young safeties, especially Wanye. He's been making plays in camp practice. And Eric Scott Jr., the one that I named as the steal of the draft, the potential steal of the draft, he is also getting his hands dirty out here. So looking forward to him in the preseason as well. So keep an eye on everyone, but most certainly draw circles around those guys. And ultimately, ladies and gentlemen, let's just watch the game for what it is. It's evaluation to find out who deserves to make the roster toward the end of this month. Don't watch it for wins or losses. We don't care about that.
Oh, no, man. I'm still upset. I want to talk to you more, man. But that's
science.
That's science, man. That's guy. That's the science guy, Pat No C Walker, giving us the science as usual, brother. Appreciate you, man. Much love, and we'll talk to you next week, man.
Absolutely. Talk to you guys later. Yeah.
God damn. That's the only thing about, during the off season or during training camp, we can't get Pat as long as we want, but I promise you, during the season, we'll have Pat much longer. In fact, we'll actually be recording episodes, so that'll be fun. But great stuff. Again, biased probably, but Pat puts in so much work, and it's quality. Not hard that is to have 17 different hats, and it's quality. There was so many good things in that. And again, I always go back and watch or listen and watch, I guess. Listen to what he said when he joins us here on The Scientific Method. Thanks for watching, and make sure to follow and subscribe to A to Z Dallas so you don't miss an episode of The Scientific Method. Every Thursday morning, 9 a.m. Central on Facebook and YouTube, with every episode available on A to Z Sports.com.